Heartwarming moment, racism exposed as FBI agent's badge transforms lives in 30 seconds. Jason Carter stood in the garage, the smell of motor oil and gasoline enveloping him like a comforting embrace. He loved the hum of engines, the intricate dance of gears. But today, something felt different. A weight hung in the air. Jason had always dreamed of running his own auto shop, a legacy where he could put his heart and soul into every car he fixed, a dream his mother fueled with her endless sacrifices and his father tainted with her rigid expectations of honor. Then, the explosion happened. One moment it was just another day at work, the next, chaos erupted as law enforcement stormed in. An undercover investigation, a discrimination sting operation, shattered the routine. Jason found himself in the eye of the storm, his world turning upside down as accusations of racism against his coworkers roared around him like a wildfire. The sounds of confusion blended with the screeching of tires and shouting voices, causing his heart to pound in his chest. In the frenzy, an FBI agent approached him, eyes fierce yet hopeful. "You've got integrity, Jason. We need you to help expose this," the agent said, showing him a badge that could change everything. It felt like an electric jolt, a chance to do good, to stand for what was right. But doubt crept in. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Taking the badge was no small thing. It felt like a betrayal, a fracture in loyalty. Conflicted, Jason accepted it, igniting a spark of change within him. Suddenly, he was thrust into the spotlight, welcomed by some as a hero and vilified by others, including his father. The dinner table became a battlefield, escalating tensions bubbling over as heated debates filled the air. "You're choosing them over us," his father bellowed, eyes blazing with hurt and anger. Jason felt the sting of each word, the unwavering loyalty of a veteran clashing against the ideals of justice. Through it all, Jason remained steadfast. He organized a public forum to confront the town about its biases, to spark uncomfortable conversations and unearth the hidden prejudices rooted in Maplewood. As he stood before a crowd of neighbors, some with faces of support, others contorted in rage, his voice quavered yet held firm. He bared his soul, sharing the struggles he faced and urging everyone to reevaluate their views. But in the midst of it all, he caught a glimpse of his father, standing in the back, a mask of conflicting emotions. There was anger, fear, but also a flicker of something else: uncertainty. Jason's heart raced as he faced the crowd. They were all at a crossroads, just like him, and the ultimate question loomed heavy: would his father accept that honor lay not in blind loyalty, but in the courage to challenge injustice? The room was thick with tension, and it was clear that moment could either break them or bring them together. As Jason stepped down from the makeshift podium, a wave of uncertainty washed over him. The energy in the room shifted, pulsating between anger and reflection. He had laid his truth bare for everyone to see, but now, the side glances and murmurs of the crowd made him question whether his words had sparked any change or simply hardened the divide. His father remained in the shadows, those familiar storm clouds of disappointment brewing just behind the lines of his furrowed brow. Jason could feel every heartbeat echoing in the silent space between them, a connection struggling against the weight of expectations and disbelief. He took a deep breath, his palms clammy, heart thundering as he walked toward the corner where his father stood, arms crossed tightly against his chest. "Dad," Jason started, but his voice wavered, caught in the tension that transfixed the air like a heavy fog. His father's gaze was locked, unwavering. "I know this is hard for you. But it's harder for others, the people we've ignored for too long. Don't try to play the hero, Jason," his father shot back, voice low but fierce. "You're throwing away everything I built for this family. This is about loyalty. About respect. Jason felt a surge of anger. Loyalty? Is it really loyalty if you're turning a blind eye to what's wrong? If you refuse to see the pain others face because it's easier to stay comfortable? Those words hung in the air like a challenge. Behind them, faces from acquaintances blurred in and out of focus. Some searched for understanding, while others bore the weight of distrust. Jason's heart ached with every beat. He wanted to bridge this gap, where love for family met the cries for justice. A woman from the crowd, a single mother he had known for years, stepped forward, her voice timid yet resolute. I lost someone dear who suffered because of all this. I had to fight just to get fair treatment. It's hard to confront, but can't you see that change is necessary? The room murmured in agreement, a growing swell of voices echoing her sentiment. Jason turned to his father, searching for any sign of softening. Instead, he found a mixture of fear and stubbornness. What if you're wrong? His father whispered, the vulnerability breaking through his hardened facade. Jason's breath hitched. What if we're wrong for not trying? Silence followed, heavy yet charged with possibility. Jason felt something shift within the confines of his father's defenses, a crack in the armor he had built over a lifetime. But before he could speak again, his mother, who had quietly watched from the sidelines, intervened. Harold, sometimes you have to let go of old expectations to find a better path forward. Can't you see that this isn't just about Jason? It's about everyone. The delicate hope in her voice reached through the turmoil, a calming presence that wrapped around Jason's heart. Could they really begin to see eye to eye? Would his father join him in this fight for justice? Just then, as if a storm were brewing anew, a commotion erupted at the back of the room. A loud crash jolted everyone from their thoughts, and a group of men burst through the door, faces contorted with hostility, ready to voice their anger toward Jason's stand. In that moment, Jason realized the true battle was just beginning, and he would have to choose, not just for himself but for his community, his family. Would he stand his ground amidst the chaos that threatened to envelop him? His heart raced again, the stakes now higher than ever, as uncertainty rushed in. Did he have the courage to face not just the crowd, but his father, and now, this new threat? And as he stepped forward to meet the challenge head-on, he wondered if they'd finally find their way back to each other, or would this storm tear them apart once and for all? The door slammed against the wall as the group of men charged into the room, their anger radiating like heat waves on a summer day. Jason's heart thudded in his chest. The momentum he had built with his plea for understanding felt like it was slipping away, consumed by the chaos that erupted around him. Who does this kid think he is? One of the men yelled, pointing a finger at Jason, his face flushed with rage. Spouting off about loyalty like it means anything to people like us. This is our home. The crowd shifted, a mixture of fear and disbelief evident on their faces. Jason's mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth as she instinctively stepped closer to her husband. Jason kept his eyes on the group, adrenaline surging through him. He couldn't back down now. This was for everyone who had ever felt silenced. Everyone deserves a voice. Jason shouted, surprising even himself with the strength in his words. You can't hide behind anger and hate anymore. This is about people's lives. The furious men exchanged looks, their expressions momentarily confused. There was a crack, a flicker of hesitation in their eyes as they processed his defiance. But then, one man, tall and broad-shouldered, stepped forward, his sneer returning. And what do you know about loyalty, boy? Jason's father, stirred by the tide of dissent, moved beside Jason, his own fury rising. You think loyalty means standing by ignorance? Loyalty means protecting those who need help, not turning your back on them. The atmosphere thickened, electric with tension. Jason felt a surge of hope at his father's words, but doubt loomed. Was this enough? Could this moment be the one to finally shatter the wall between them? The crowd started to murmur, whispers of support spreading like wildfire. People began to step forward, some recounting the stories of those they had lost, friends, siblings. Their voices intertwined, a chorus demanding change. But the hostile group wasn't ready to relent. You think this makes you heroes? Another man barked. You don't know what it's like out there. I know pain, Jason replied, his voice stronger than ever. I've seen what it does to people when we ignore it. We can't keep pretending it doesn't exist. Not anymore. His words hung in the air, raw and real. People around him began to nod slowly, some wiping tears from their eyes, others whispering words of agreement. In the swell of emotion, Jason caught a glimpse of his father. His arms had unfurled, fists unclenching. Then it hit him, this was a pivotal moment. Could he really change hearts today? That crack in his father's armor widened, revealing uncertainty, perhaps even fear. But before he could dwell too long on hope, the tall man stepped back, rallying his group. You think your little talk can change anything? You're wrong. Jason felt the air thicken again as the tension recaptured the room. Anger and fear loomed, each moment filled with uncertainty and the real threat of violence. Just as he started to reply, his mother held up her hand, voice steady yet perceptive. This isn't how we handle things anymore. We grow, we learn, we change. You don't have to fight. Let us talk, let us listen. For a heartbeat, silence enveloped them. Every person in the room held their breath, caught in the balance between confrontation and dialogue. Humor had been stripped away, leaving stark honesty in its place. But suddenly, the leader's face twisted with a cruel smile. You think talking will fix this? You're delusional, just like your son. But you'll see. Jason clenched his fists, ready for whatever would come next, knowing the stakes had never been higher. As the tension built to a breaking point, he realized he had only one option left: to fight for their beliefs, to find strength in unity. Would he face the clash head-on and transform this moment into something beautiful, or would the storm claim them all? And as the leading man took a step forward, Jason stood firm, wondering if they could really break the cycle or would fear trap them all forever. The door frame creaked as the heavy-set man advanced, his glare like a blazing spotlight focused solely on Jason. The air crackled with potential violence, and Jason could feel the gaze of the crowd as they weighed their options: fear or courage. Don't back down, he whispered to himself, summoning every ounce of resolve. His mother's suggestion of dialogue lingered in his mind, offering a path that felt fragile yet essential. He could almost hear her urging voice, urging calmness. This almost felt like a make-or-break moment. And he was ready. Listen. Jason shouted, channeling the urgency in his chest. The crowd stilled. This isn't about being a hero or delusional. It's about the truth. We've all seen injustice, we've all felt the pain of silence. We can't just accept it any longer. The lead man hesitated, his demeanor shifting slightly. The fire within Jason flickered with hope, sensing that the tide could still turn. Remember the last time we ignored the signs? When we thought it would just go away? Jason continued, voice chiming with the sincerity of shared memories. We said nothing. And we lost people who mattered. This isn't just numbers on a report. They were our friends. Our family. Soft murmurs rippled through the crowd, voices whispering their histories as they thought back to loved ones gone too soon. It was as if a collective consciousness emerged, threading their experiences together. The muscular man, still front and center, cracked his knuckles, a noise like snapping twigs. You think you can just say whatever and change hearts? He sneered, yet there was a tremor in his bravado. Jason's father stepped forward, eyes blazing with a rare clarity. Maybe what we need is to hear the voices we've silenced. It's all of us who bear this weight. His voice boomed, sending ripples through the assembly, awakening something stronger than fear, defiance. Jason turned, scanning the crowd. Faces he recognized were quietly wrestling with their fears, some glancing at each other as if asking, "Can we do this?" It was both terrifying and exhilarating. For the first time, he saw his own doubt mirrored. Together, we can be stronger, Jason urged, planting his feet firmly. Let us talk about the hurt. Let us not allow hatred to own us anymore. This is our chance to change, to evolve. The silence stretched taut, heavy with the weight of what was left unspoken. Just then, someone from the back stepped forward. It was a woman, trembling but determined. I lost my brother because no one listened. Her voice cracked, echoing a palpable pain that cut through the tension, reaching Jason's heart. He was trying to help others, and they took him from us. The crowd gasped, and a ripple of empathy surged through them. Jason could feel the shift. It was nothing short of miraculous. Names were brought forth, stories interwoven with grief and potential for understanding. Suddenly, the tall man stumbled back, eyes darting around as if realizing for the first time how isolated he really was in his rage. They just want to take from us," he shouted. But even as the words left his mouth, doubt danced beneath the surface, revealing an inkling of fear that threatened to break him. Jason pressed on, voice steady, each syllable building. "What if you turned that pain into understanding? What if we could unite instead of fight? Isn't that worth exploring?" The response was tentative at first, a few voices echoing agreement, and then, before he knew it, the wave of unity washed over the room. Hushed yes began to climb from all corners. Jason could see the start of transformation. The confrontation had turned into a dialogue. Hope surged within him as some members of the opposing group began to step back and listened. But just as victory seemed close, the leading man, face pale, let out a guttural roar, "Enough." Shadows fell across his face, darkness threatening to reclaim what light they had found tonight. "I won't be threatened by some kid's dreams." A wave of nervousness washed over the assembly. Would this be the moment error turned to violence? The hope they had built teetered on the brink of collapse. And as the crowd swelled with uncertainty once again, Jason clenched his fists, determined to stand firm in the face of impending chaos. Had he come so far only to face the abyss? What could he possibly do now? As the room held its breath, one question remained: was this only the beginning, or the end of the battle they had begun? The heavy-set man's face twisted into a mask of fury, his eyes burning with anger. But behind that fury, there was a sliver of something else: fear, perhaps. Jason could see it, a crack in the armor that reinforced the man's rage. It was just enough to give him the courage to press on. "You don't have to do this," Jason shouted, desperation injecting strength into his voice. "We're begging for understanding, not more division." The air thickened, and tension hung like a dark cloud, electric with uncertainty. Inspired by his call, several others stepped forward, and the crowd began to shift. Each person portrayed a grounded conviction, voices rising, harmonizing like a choir fueled by shared pain. "This isn't just about you," someone yelled. "It affects us all." The muscular man hesitated again, his knuckles relaxing slightly. Internal battle raged across his face as he appeared to weigh the voices of dissent against his solitary anger. But the echo of the woman's pain lingered, growing louder alongside the growing tide of fractures within the crowd. Suddenly, an elderly man moved to the front. His weathered face bore deep lines of sorrow and strength. "Son," he began, voice shaky but direct, "I lost my child because the world chased him away. It's time we stop letting anger make our choices. My heart can't take it anymore." Gasps reverberated through the crowd, a collective empathetic breath shared between them. As he spoke, Jason noticed one of the younger men in the crowd, tearing up, fists clenching and unclenching at his sides. Jason recognized him from school, a quiet, sensitive soul who had struggled with bullying. Would this collective vulnerability resonate with him? You see, Jason took the opportunity to venture forward, keeping his focus on the crowd. "We've all got stories." He took a step closer to the elder, supporting him. "I never knew until today that one story could cause ripples that affect so many lives." The larger man frowned, eyes narrowing, but there was faltering visible now. People were stepping beside one another, creating a path of light in a place that had been shrouded in shadows for too long. Courage is the antidote to fear, Jason continued, emboldened as voices behind him harmonized in agreement. We may not solve everything right now, but we can start understanding and listening. He could feel the heartbeats of the crowd nearby, fear mingling with hope, slowly rising like a tide against the dark. With an outburst of near disbelief, the heavy-set man began to shake his head, disgust mixing with worry. So, you think speaking up changes anything? You're all delusional. A woman from the side shouted back, maybe it's time you found out what we really wanted to say. A chant started to build, voices rising in unison, we are here, we are together. As Jason witnessed the collective shift, the acoustic spirit wrapped around them, a parched seed beginning to sprout in the hope-filled hearts of everyone who dared to speak. Yet, as this shift battled for ground, he wondered, could the walls of hostility truly fall, or would the heavy-set man's fury descend again? But perhaps the more vital question was, could the uprising of voices lead to a resolution that echoed far beyond this moment? And would Jason find the strength to ensure it didn't all end in tragedy? In a world where hesitation easily crushed hope, the answer awaited their next move. Jason steeled himself, heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The heaviness in the air felt stifling, but the collective sounds of voices building behind him made him feel less alone, more prepared for what might happen next. The heavy-set man's defiance almost seemed to quake, as if the weight of the moment was too much to bear alone. I see you, shouted a tall woman with curly hair, stepping to the front. I see your anger, your pain. But does it have to be aimed at us? Her voice was like a lighthouse cutting through a stormy fog, and the crowd rallied around her, each face turning hopeful. The muscular man's scowl deepened, but Jason could see him trying to fight against something deep inside, something gnawing at him, battling to break free. The crowd surged forward, a wave of solidarity washing over the place where despair had grown. Let us tell him our truths. Jason felt the fire in himself, igniting what had been merely a spark moments ago. Maybe he doesn't know that love comes in many shapes and colors. Just like pain does. He felt his throat constrict as he imagined the woman's face again, her eyes reflecting hopelessness. It was too close to home. Jason glanced at the younger man he had seen earlier, still visibly shaken, but Jason sensed a shift, something had changed in him. The younger man moved a step closer, and for the first time, he spoke, voice trembling, I burned once. Not from fire, but from words. They cut deeper than any flame. Tears pooled in his eyes as he shared his truth. I didn't think anyone else felt that. Compassion rippled through the crowd, inspiring others to share their experiences. Each voice was a brushstroke of color in a once monochrome portrait painted with anger and division. Jason's heart soared amidst the rising tide of shared vulnerability. See? We're not so different after all. He urged. But then, the heavy-set man seemed to shrink visibly, caught off guard by the collective humanity laid bare before him. The crowd continued, gripping him with palpable emotion. They were reaching out, grasping at the hope of connection where anger had ruled for too long. I just want the world to be safe. I thought. He stumbled over his words, and Jason sensed the internal battle rage behind those guarded eyes. You thought it would stay that way by pushing others away, Jason replied, voice softening. But there's so much more safety in unity than division. We are the solution we've all been waiting for. His words were drowned beneath a wave of affirmations from the crowd, a united front of humanity that pushed against old fears. They were starting to sway, inching closer together, threading arms, their resolve etched in the air around them. And then, a child's voice broke through the adult noise, clear and unwavering, why can't we just be kind? The innocence tied everyone's hearts together in a tight grip. A gasp sounded from the crowd, and suddenly every adult was reminded of a simpler truth, one that had been obscured by life's complexities. The heavy-set man's expression faltered completely. Jason held his breath, waiting for the moment where fear would slip away entirely, replacing the facade with a flicker of understanding. Could this be the opening they all needed? His heartbeat quickened, believing this was a chance for genuine change, a misplaced idea transformed. But as Jason waited for the heavy-set man's response, a shadow crossed the man's face, a flash of uncertainty, a potential decision brewing between anger and acceptance. Jason could feel the crowd holding their collective breath, preparing for the outcome that could determine everything. What would he choose, fear or understanding? The answer felt as fragile as the still air surrounding them, leaving everyone questioning which would truly prevail in this battle for hearts and minds. The heavy-set man's gaze flickered between the crowd and Jason, his brow furrowing as if wrestling with an unseen force. Jason felt the weight of the moment pressing down on all of them, hope and trepidation tangled together tightly in the air. A tremor ran through the crowd as people leaned in, drawn by the gravity of potential change. Why can't we just be kind? The child's voice rang out again, breaking the silence. It felt like a bell pealing through the chaos, echoing in their hearts and minds. In that single moment, something shifted in the heavy-set man's eyes. They softened, the hard lines of his face melting away into something vulnerable, raw. Kindness, he murmured, almost to himself, and for the first time, he seemed to hesitate, reflecting on a lifetime of hurt and missteps. Yes, Jason chimed in, encouraged by the breakthrough unfolding before him. Kindness is the bridge we need to build. It can connect us in ways that fear and anger never will. You wanted safety, didn't you? So do we all. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and the energy began to swell, pulling them together. Jason could sense a crack forming in the heavy-set man's armor as whispers of understanding floated through the air. The man's voice was small now, just above a whisper. I thought if I pushed people away, I'd keep my loved ones safe. His hands trembled at his sides, revealing the tremors of a man grappling with the weight of regret. You've been fighting for safety the only way you knew how, Jason replied gently. But all of us, every single one, we want the same thing. We need to face this together. Imagine how strong we could be if we came together instead of apart. As the man's gaze swept across the hundreds of faces staring back at him, Jason could feel the crowd practically holding their breath. It was a moment suspended in time, a bridge being constructed right before them, a fragile, yet undeniable connection forming under the surface. Tears began to fall silently from the heavy-set man's eyes, and in that moment, Jason saw hope flicker in the man's heart, mingling with the weight of his fears. I didn't mean to, he started, his voice cracking. I just wanted to protect myself. I didn't see the bigger picture. You're not alone in this, Jason urged, stepping closer. None of us are. Let us take those first steps together. Let us be the change the world so desperately needs. The heavy-set man took a deep breath, the kind that seemed to anchor him to the earth. There was a sense of collective breathlessness as they waited, every heartbeat synchronized with the potential of what was to come. The crowd shifted again, gathering closer, their collective energy creating an undeniable force. And then, in a moment rich with emotion, the man nodded slowly, uncertainty still visible but melting into something softer. I want to learn, I want to be better. A cheer erupted from the crowd, filled with joy and relief. Jason couldn't help but smile, feeling the warmth of understanding radiate through him. This was the first step, the beginning of transformation. Yet just as the moment seemed to culminate into something monumental, a distant siren blared in the background, cutting through their celebration with a jarring reminder of reality. The crowd stiffened, eyes darted toward the source of the sound, tension re-entering the air. What was on the horizon now? Jason sensed a change, a new challenge looming, ready to test their hard-fought unity. Would they be able to withstand the storm together, or would fear once again push them apart? As the sirens grew nearer, uncertainty settled back in, and Jason couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. What awaited them outside the fragile walls of this moment? The answers loomed ominously in the distance, just beyond their grasp. The sirens wailed louder, slicing through the shared relief like a blade. Jason's heart slammed against his chest as confusion spread among the crowd. Faces that had just begun to soften were now frozen in apprehension. The heavy-set man, still caught in the whirlwind of his transformation, looked around, eyes wide with anxiety. "What is happening?" someone shouted, the fear rising in their voice like a tide. Jason wished he had the answer, but the echoes of the siren seemed to loom larger than the moment they had just shared. "I don't know," Jason replied, swallowing hard. He scanned the group, their hopeful expressions now marred by worry. "But we can't let fear take root again. Let us stand strong together." But as if in a cruel twist of fate, a group of uniformed officers emerged from a nearby alley, badges glimmering under the midday sun. The crowd instinctively stepped back, a collective intake of breath marking a shift from hope to uncertainty. Jason's heart sank. He knew that for many, the sight of law enforcement would bring forth feelings they had tried so hard to move beyond. The heavy-set man clenched his fists, his earlier resolve wobbling under the weight of unfamiliar fear. "This isn't what we need right now," he exclaimed, voice shaking. "They don't understand us." Jason moved closer, feeling the swell of tension and anger. "Wait. Let us hear them out. This could be a chance. If we keep our voices steady, maybe we'll find common ground." He stepped forward, a bridge once more, putting himself between the fearful crowd and the approaching officers. Ice-cold sweat trickled down his spine, but he held his ground. "We want to talk. We want peace." The sirens finally stopped, leaving a haunting silence in their wake. One of the officers, a woman with a determined look in her eyes, walked forward. "We're here to listen," she said, her voice strong yet calm. "We want to understand what's happening here." Jason felt the crowd's hesitation. He knew they had valid reasons to doubt, but he also saw the glint of opportunity in the officer's eyes. "Look, we're all hurting. If we're ever going to change things, we need to talk. Please, let us speak." The woman nodded slowly, glancing at her colleagues before signaling for them to lower their arms. Jason felt a flicker of hope. This was a crack in the wall. With a shaky breath, he turned back to the crowd. "What do you think? Can we trust them? Is it worth a chance?" The heavy-set man stood beside him, still processing, but the longing for change in his eyes was unmistakable. "Yes, we have to try. I can't keep living in fear." Jason felt the energy in the crowd begin to shift again, a tentative hope rising. They stepped forward together, but just as Jason caught a glimpse of a pathway through the murky waters of misunderstanding, a voice erupted from the back of the crowd. "No. Don't trust them. They're just going to hurt us again." The voice was sharp and accusatory, cutting through Jason's resolve like a knife. The crowd tensed once more, their emotions igniting. Jason felt the weight of the decision pressing down on them. This was a moment teetering on the edge of a cliff. Would they continue to embrace change, or would they allow their fears to drive them apart once more? As the tension crackled in the air, Jason could sense that the true test was just beginning. What would be the choice of the crowd, and how would the officers respond to the brewing conflict? The heavy atmosphere thickened, swallowing the words from Jason's lips as the crowd began to murmur. Whispers of distrust flickered through the sea of faces. The officer's calm demeanor stood in stark contrast to the rising storm. Jason's heart raced, each beat echoing like the sirens that had just faded into silence. "Listen. This is our moment," he called out, trying to cut through the cacophony of doubt. "We can't let one voice derail what we just started. We have a chance to change the narrative." But the fear had already taken root. A woman near the front, her hands trembled as she faced the officers. "How can we trust you? You haven't been part of our struggle." The heavy-set man stepped closer to Jason, eyes darting nervously between him and the officers. "What if they turn on us? What if this is just another betrayal?" Jason felt the weight of the moment. The deeper he sunk into this ocean of uncertainty, the harder it became to keep his head above water. "We have to be brave," he urged, words spilling from his mouth. "Bravery doesn't mean you're not scared. It means facing that fear together." From behind him, a familiar voice broke through the anxiety. What do we really want? Justice? Understanding? Or will we just let the past dictate our future? It was a younger guy, someone who had been standing quietly until now, his honest gaze catching the attention of the crowd. Jason nodded, feeling a flicker of hope ignite again as the crowd fell silent to listen. The police officer took a step closer, her features softening. When we say we're here to help, we mean it. But we need you to let us know how to help, she said earnestly. The crowd shifted again, uncertainty still hanging heavy, like clouds before a storm. Thoughts raced through Jason's mind. Opening dialogue was a leap into the unknown. But what if it was the bridge they needed? Let us create a space for understanding, he said, his voice rising with newfound determination. Let us tell them our stories. We need to be heard, and they need to understand who we are and what we've lost. The heavy-set man looked at Jason, a flicker of defiance crossing his face. Are you sure that'll work? I don't know, but we owe it to ourselves to try. Trust me, if we are honest, they can't keep ignoring us. Jason felt the crowd leaning in, caught in the pull of vulnerability and hope. Slowly, one by one, hands began to rise. The hesitation was palpable, but a few brave souls began to share their stories, voices shaking but filled with raw truth. They spoke of loss, of fear, of dreams crushed under the weight of misunderstanding. As the words flowed, Jason noticed the officers listening intently, heads nodding in understanding, expressions softening. It was a small but significant step towards something bigger, a connection being forged in a fragile moment. But just then, as momentum built, a loud shout cracked through the air. This is a trap. Don't fall for it. A man surged forward, red-faced, fists clenched. Panic rippled through the crowd. The voices that had begun to merge into an anthem of unity now threatened to fragment into chaos once more. Jason felt the ground beneath him shifting. Please, don't let fear win. He exclaimed, desperation seeping into his tone. This is our choice, our moment. But would they choose unity or division? Would they allow the fear to divide them again, or redefine their future together? The decision hung heavy in the air, trembling on the brink of possibility. The tension felt electric, like the stillness before a summer storm. Jason's heart raced as the shouting man's anger threatened to fracture their fragile unity. His voice, fueled by desperation, echoed in the room. Everyone, please. We need to rise above this. The crowd's unease pulsed around him. It was an unsteady dance between uncertainty and the hope that had begun to flicker alive. Jason peered into the faces around him, each one caught in a whirlwind of fear, hurt, and cautious hope. He felt the weight of their stories sitting between them, begging to be heard. Before he could think, he stepped forward, projecting his voice into the tense air. True change doesn't happen in the absence of fear, it happens when we face it together. The murmurs simmered, gradually quieting as they turned their attention back to him. The heavy-set man glanced sideways, fear softening into contemplation. Together, what does that even look like? Jason seized the opportunity. He took a deep breath, grounding himself in the shared suffering that had brought them all here. It looks like standing shoulder to shoulder, listening as each person shares their truth. He paused, scanning the crowd, urging them to believe. It's about understanding that no one is alone in their pain. We've all carried burdens, the shame, the fear, the loss, but you have the power to change that together. A ripple of recognition washed through the group. It was a collective acknowledgement that they had wandered into divisive waters for too long. The officer stood unwavering, and he could see the shift in her demeanor, her body language, more open and willing to engage with them as they began to share. Yes! Shouted a woman from the back, her voice powerful and unwavering. I lost my brother in these very streets because of fear. We have to open dialogues, not walls. Jason beamed, feeling a swell of solidarity bloom. One by one, like falling dominoes, others began to weave their stories into the fabric of the moment. Their truths danced in the air, hearts poured out as emotions spilled forth, and the initial tension began to dissolve. To live in fear is to live half a life. A young man shouted. Let us not waste our chance. And surprisingly, it wasn't just Jason's supporters who spoke up. The heavy-set man stepped forward, vulnerability breaking through his defenses. I'm scared, his voice hitched, but he pushed on. I lost my job because I let my anger blind me. I thought I was protecting my home, but I was just pushing everyone away. I don't want to feel alone anymore. A collective gasp spread through the crowd, recognition shining in their eyes. Jason saw a bridge forming between the heavy-set man and those who had once feared him. It was a painful realization, raw and beautiful. Suddenly, the officer stepped forward again, eyes glistening. We've all made mistakes. I've seen it in my line of work. I want to change how we engage with communities, but I can't do it without your help. The tension began to lift, barriers were breaking down like walls crumbling under a flood. This feeling of connection, of shared humanity, carried them forward like a buoy in turbulent seas. Let us plan something. Jason exclaimed, excitement bubbling within him. A gathering. Discussion groups. We can start healing together, sharing ideas on how to move forward. Heads nodded, murmurs turning into affirmations of hope. The heavy-set man stepped forward with a newfound resolve. Count me in. I want to help bridge this gap. The crowd erupted in support, the tension shifting from fear to anticipation. But before it could fully sink in, the earlier anger-fueled voice shouted again from the back, this won't change anything. They'll never listen. Jason felt the doubt re-emerge, threatening to sink them back into disconnection, but he held his ground. But don't you see? This is where it starts. The fight isn't over. It's only just begun. As he drew a breath, he felt the weight of the moment again, but this time, it felt lighter. This was the first step into a bigger journey, a collective march toward understanding, acceptance, and ultimately, change. They slowly moved together, forms melding as they united against the shadows of division. Jason sensed the resolve, every heartbeat shared a promise woven through their stories of pain and hope. In the depths of uncertainty, amid the cries and challenges, there was brilliance cutting through. They were tapping into the essence of what it meant to be truly human, to understand that they could stir the waters of change if they stood together. As they turned, eager faces now filled with determination, Jason knew this was the moment they had chosen connection over division. They would not only shape their community but their futures as well. And with that, they moved to be heard not just in those streets, but in their hearts. This is the moment to stand with them. You need to subscribe now to not miss more exclusive stories that inspire change. Leave a like now to fuel our journey. Comment below and share your thoughts about this incredible transformation. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of unity. Your support means everything.